In this video, I'm gonna rank the artifacts introduced in the Heroes 2 expansion. I'm about 30 years too late, but, better late than never. Anyway, the first one is the Crystal Ball. So, this gives the hero more specific information about nearby monsters, enemy heroes, and castles. So this is kind of interesting because it combines, in a sense, a little bit of visions, a little bit of identify hero, and also it shows you what a castle has, what army is there. So that's kind of interesting that it's permanent as well. But you need to be relatively nearby. So this is relatively similar to, let's say, what a rogue can do in Heroes 3, for example. So that's kind of interesting. Crystal Ball. It makes a ton of sense in the early game, I would say, but afterwards it might become a little bit obsolete, probably, because it's just the opportunity cost. If you have all the artifacts in your inventory, you have no more room, you might ditch the Crystal Ball eventually. But I kind of like it, though. It's kind of interesting. Let's just give it a B. It's a solid artifact, all things considered. The next one is the Arm of the Martyr, which increases the spell power by 3, but adds the undead morale penalty. So this is kind of interesting. Spell power 3, that's pretty good. It's on par with, what was that, like the brooch, the witch's brooch or something like that, probably. I think so. So anyway, it's kind of strong, but that undead morale penalty can be circumvented somewhat if you have basic leadership, at least, or I guess that's it only, because as I've seen, there's an exception here that's kind of interesting because it's contradiction, meaning that you know how you can have good morale or +1 morale if you have two distinct units from the same faction. Like if I have a halfling and a boar, I have +1 morale for sure because it's like all wizard troops or something like that, +1. Or if you have just an upgraded version and an unupgraded version, like for example, if you have a giant and a titan, that's it. You still have +1 morale. But if you would only have giants, that's not going to work. However, that doesn't work with this Arm of the Martyr because it's a contradiction. Because you can't also have undead troops in your army, but also having all, I don't know, wizard troops. It's a contradiction. So this overrides anything else. So you will always have -1 morale because of this. So that's kind of interesting, as I've seen. So anyway, it's pretty strong. I'd say this is not that much of a problem because, the chances of getting bad morale, even if you have -1 morale, the chance of getting bad morale is 4.2% as far as I know. That's not that much. It's sometimes, yeah, if you get unlucky enough, sure. But for 3 spell power, that's a pretty good deal, I would say. So I kind of like this artifact. It's not the best necessarily, so I would just put it at an A, but it's pretty good. The next one is the Brooch of Shielding. Provides 50% protection from Armageddon and Elemental Storm, but decreases spell power by 2. That's kind of interesting, but it's very situational, I must say. You need to have Armageddon, which is a level 5 spell, or Elemental Storm, which is a level 4 spell. So that's, what even is that? Like, it's a 12.5% chance to get it from a Mage Guild level 4 if you don't have a library. If you have a library, it's like 18% or something like that. And Armageddon is, 10% chance to get it? So it's pretty situational. And also, with that 50% protection and -2 spell power, maybe, but it's still devastating to your army. Even if you have 50% protection, what kind of dire situation are you in that you are justifying using these things against things that are not immune to these spells? I'm not sure about it. Like Brooch of Shield, maybe I thought maybe you could combine it with a Fire Cloak or something like that. But guess what? It doesn't work. The Fire Cloak doesn't work with Armageddon, so it's kind of bad. Anyway, Brooch of Shielding, I don't think it's that useful necessarily. Maybe only if you drop a nuclear bomb and you don't want to sustain too much damage, but I'm not sure. I feel like you're kind of losing at that point, so it's not the best artifact out there. It's interesting as an idea, but I don't feel like it's too strong. And also that spell power -2, to be honest, if I would get this artifact, I might as well just give it to a secondary hero, go into the enemy territory, die, and let somebody else have this artifact just to reduce their spell power, because how likely would it be for them to use Armageddon and Elemental Storm? Like, I don't know, man. It's it's kind of bad. But I don't know, maybe you have had a different experience. But I don't think this is a great artifact. I would put it at a C. It's not that terrible, but it's too situational. The next one is Heart of Fire. Provides 50% protection from fire, but doubles the damage taken from cold. This is terrible. Now, this doesn't make sense at all, because as I've said in that previous video, fire spells you only have 2 fire spells, Fireball and Fire Blast, and they deal 10x power. That's essentially a mass magic arrow in that area that's affected. So the fireball is like 7 hexes, and the fire blast is 15 hexes or something like that. Okay, or 8, yeah, whatever that is. Okay, sure, but reducing that damage from 10x to 5x is not that significant. However, doubling the damage taken from cold is kind of bad, because cold spells are Cold Ray, which is a singular target, and also Cold Ring. Cold Ring is like Fireball, so that's not that significant. However, it's not significant to reduce it from 10x to 5x, but it's significant to go from 10x to 20x. 20x, and that 7, well, not quite 7, because it's like a donut, right? So the center hex is spared, but those 6 hexes affected, those would be the equivalent of a normal Cold Ray that affects every hex. That's kind of bad. 20x power, that's not good. That's not good at all. And also, the fact that the Cold Ray is so accessible because it's a level 2 spell, I'm not sure what the percentage is, but I feel like, if I remember correctly, it's like 20-something% chance to get any level 2 spell from your Mage Guild level 2. So that's kind of accessible. Most of the time you will deal with somebody that has Cold Ray, and it's kind of unfortunate, because Cold Ray will deal 40x power now with this in your inventory. That's pretty bad. 40x power is so bad. That's on par with what the first target of a Chain Lightning would sustain and damage. That's very bad. Very, very bad. 40x power. What are they thinking? And the Frost Ring is less accessible. It's a level 3 spell. It's like 12.5%, I think, or something like that, has a chance to get it. So, well. But even that, turning that into like a sort of a mass area of effect Cold Ray, or normal Cold Ray, that's pretty bad. So Heart of Fire is terrible. If I get it, I make sure I ditch it. I give it to a secondary hero, and then I move on. I don't like Heart of Fire at all. It's pretty bad, and unfortunately, even though it provides protection against the fire, it doesn't work with Armageddon, as I've said. I've tested it out, it doesn't work. So that's even worse. Because I could have justified that somewhat, maybe. It would have been a little bit like this one, but maybe even worse. But like as it stands right now, it's probably a D. It's just a completely, it's almost cursed. It's almost a cursed one. I don't know. I mean, this one is not removed by that alchemist's lab, but it probably should. Anyway. Then the Heart of Ice, pretty much the same thing, but it's not quite as devastating because it provides 50% protection from cold, which are more accessible, but doubles the damage taken from fire, so only Fireball and Fire Blast. So they become 20x power, which is already pretty bad, and still they're not as accessible as a Cold Ray, so at least we got that going for us. And still, reducing the damage from a Cold Ray from 20x to 10x, so reducing it to a Magic Arrow, is that so significant to justify this artifact? Probably not. It's, best case scenario, it's almost like an Ice Cloak, but worse. And Ice Cloak is not that great anyway. So, yeah. But doubles the damage taken from fire. I mean, that actually turns Fireball and Fire Blast into viable spells. And that's never a good thing. I don't like this. But I have to say, it's slightly better than the Heart of Fire. So, yeah. So, all things considered, D+. Why not? Yeah. But, not more than that. Definitely not. The spell scroll, I'm not going to rank the spell scroll because obviously it depends on what spell it actually gives you. If it gives you Mass Slow, S tier, easy. But if it gives you, I don't know, Bloodlust or something like that, it's probably lower, way lower. But anyway, it's kind of interesting. And also, I think that the spell scroll overrides your wisdom requirements or something like that. Like if you don't have wisdom but you find a dimension door, I think you can use it anyway. So that's kind of interesting, but still, it's it depends too much on what scroll, what spell it gives you. Anyway, Holy Hammer plus 5 attack. That's it. 5 attack. That's insane. 5 attack. Just as I've said in the previous videos, you know how the game calculates the difference between the attacker's attack skill and the defender's defense skill. And best case scenario, you offset that bonus damage by 50%. So if you would deal normally 20% more damage, now you deal 70% more damage. That's insane. Or worst case scenario, you reduce the damage reduction in a sense by 25%. All right, that's insane. That's really strong. Holy Hammer, 5 attack. In the original game, you don't even have an artifact that gives you 4 attack. So this one just is absolutely insane. I'd say this is a clear S. It's super strong. Like, it could be a game changer, I would say. Everybody could benefit from more attack, and +5 is quite insane. The next one is the Legendary Scepter, which gives +2 to all attributes. So that's essentially like visiting 2 Xanadus at level 10 or something like that, but yeah. Or half of an ultimate crown, which you've seen in the original campaign. This is kind of nice, but unfortunately, I mean, in a normal map, it's relatively significant. But honestly, in the campaign, in the, what was that, like the Descendants campaign, if you get this reward, because there's a fork at some point, you can either get this Legendary Scepter or make every elf on the map join you for free. This Legendary Scepter does nothing at all if the enemies are super strong. But obviously, if it's the battle's more equal, or in a map you don't have so many disadvantages compared to the enemy, like in the campaign, this is pretty good, I would say. So it's +2 attack, 2 defense, 2 spell power, and 2 knowledge. That's kind of nice because it's very balanced, and everybody could use more of whatever they don't really normally get. So that's the Legendary Scepter is pretty good. But is it better than 3 spell power? Yeah, for sure. It doesn't have a drawback anyway, but better than 5 attack, flat out 5 attack? I don't think so. It's debatable, but I kind of like 5 attack just like that. Instead of, 2 knowledge, it really depends on everybody's stats, but if you're a barbarian, the +2 attack is alright, but it's not that much. If you're a knight, 2 defense doesn't, whatever you're specialized in, it's not going to help you too much. Like +2 of whatever, it's alright. But, yeah, +2 spell power and knowledge is quite nice. What were those? It's like a spiked helm or something like that, and also a black pearl, if I think about it. So it's kind of nice. I'd say it's probably an S, but I would say it's debatable if it's better than the 5 attack, because 5 attack is so devastating. And yeah, 2 attributes. I might revisit this later. Next one is the Masked Head. Boosts luck and morale by +1 in sea combat specifically. So already, obviously, kind of situational, unfortunately, but it's kind of nice. +1 luck and morale, quite nice, and also it could compensate even for that Arm of the Martyr. I like luck and morale, but again, you're kind of capped. You could have only 3 morale max or 3 luck. So everything that's above that, like if you have +5 during a battle, that 5 becomes 3, right? So it's not that significant, I wouldn't say. And in sea combat specifically, I mean, how many times do you fight on a boat? I mean, it depends on the map, but most maps are not landlocked, I wouldn't say. So it's kind of very situational. Whenever you can actually use it, it's pretty good, but most of the time you don't use it. So where should I put it? I don't know. It's more significant, let's say, than the crystal ball, but because it's so rare that you would actually benefit from this, it kind of turns into a wasted slot in your inventory, so that's not that great. So maybe a B+, seems fine to me. Then the Spade of Necromancy, even though I swear to God this is a shovel, but whatever. Increases Necromancy skill. I think it's only by 10%, but still, that's quite significant. It's like having an extra shrine, I think. But again, this is even more situational. I mean, is it situational to be a Necromancer? If you play random, yeah. If you only play Necromancer, it's not. It's never situational, but you know what I mean. Yeah, 10% more Necromancy skill, pretty good. If you're a Necromancer, or if you have Necromancy, if you're a Warlock, let's say. Yeah, not too many factions. I mean, only 2 factions can use this, actually, and unfortunately, it's kind of a wasted slot, I would say. And it's just bad RNG. If you're not a Necromancer and you see this near your castle, it's kind of bad, yeah. I'd say probably better than this one with the Armageddon and Elemental Storm, but probably that's it, just because it's super situational. Yeah, makes sense. Then the Staff of Wizardry, +5 spell power. Now, 5 spell power is so strong that it could turn even barbarians and knights that are not really using magic too much. This could turn them into pseudo, let's say, a sorceress, or even a wizard of a lower level or something like that. So this enables quite a bunch of stuff, but obviously you need some knowledge to do this as well. So in a sense, wizards and let's say warlocks would win more with 5 more spell power, and the other guys, they this enables them to use damaging spells as well. But it's going to be a bit problematic they don't have wisdom, they don't have stuff like that. You know what? But in the expansion, thankfully, you have those spell scrolls, so you could get lucky even with that. But anyway, spell power is pretty strong. So 5 spell power, this is the question. 5 spell power or 5 attack, which is better? Well, I'd say I still kind of favor spell power a bit more than attack. But they're kind of close, and it's, again, depending on the situation. One might be super strong, might be stronger than the other. Like, for example, a Warlock could benefit more than from attack because they lack it, but spell power is not necessarily a problem for them. And the same could be said for Barbarians and Knights. Well, Barbarians more than anything, you know. Even though the cap for attack is 300% or something like that. So there's almost no such thing as having too much attack or having a diminishing returns at some point. Even though for spell power, definitely there are diminishing returns at some point because it affects the duration of some spells like Bless and Slow and stuff like that, and you don't really need more than 8 or something like that on average, I would say. So getting even like 13 turns for your Bless doesn't really matter that much, but for damaging spells, obviously that's quite a lot. So your Lightning Bolt could deal even 125 more damage per cast. That's pretty good. But attack gives you an offset of, as I've said, 50% if you already deal more damage, or 25% if you deal reduced damage already. That's kind of nice. Yeah. Interesting. I would still favor spell power more, so maybe S plus. But I get that it's a little bit debatable. Swordbreaker, +4 defense, +1 attack. Pretty strong. 4 defense and 1 attack as well. So that means, well, the 1 attack is kind of somewhat insignificant, 10% or 5% offset, but 4 defense, that's the game changer. If the enemy attacks you and they already deal, let's say, 60% more damage with this, you reduce that to 20% more damage. So that's an insane drop in damage. Or if you have a damage reduction going on, then you reduce, you increase the reduction in a sense, if that makes sense, right? By, what is this, 10%, yeah, 10%. Or, 20%. That's still significant, but still not as much as reducing that bonus damage by 40%. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, Swordbreaker, I kind of like it. We definitely needed something that increased defense as well. So this is quite strong. Better than the Arm of the Martyr. This is the question. 4 defense and 1 attack. It's kind of strong, you know? Compared to 3 spell power and that morale that you may or may not compensate with. It's still, I think, stronger. But still, probably just an A. Because these guys are super ridiculous. This one, even though in total, it brings up, like, it's +5 of stats, let's say, if you can consider that. It's not the same thing as +5 defense or +5 attack or something like that, because they don't combine. You know, if you have more attack, yeah, maybe your retaliation, you suffer less damage, and also your retaliation is a little bit stronger, but it's not quite the same thing as having 5 attack or 5 defense altogether. Anyway, A+ is fine. The next ones are, I'm not even sure if you can get these in a normal map, but let's rank them anyway. But these are the artifacts from the Price of Loyalty campaign. So Helmet of Andran, +5 spell power, Breastplate of Andran, +5 defense, and the Sword of Andran, +5 attack. So obviously, this is kind of easy to rank, because the Breastplate could be actually an S, 5 defense, pretty strong. Stronger than this. The helmet was spell power, so pretty much here, I guess. Even though, yeah, whatever. It's the same as the scepter. Please, can you go in there? And the attack one, I'm gonna rank it lower just because I'm not so sure if these are if they're accessible anyway. But yeah, this seems pretty fine. Now, yeah, the legendary scepter. I keep thinking about it, man. +2 attributes. That means +8 in total, if you would consider that. But obviously, knowledge is less important. I don't know about this. It's kind of hard to rank. I'd say even lower than +5 defense, because it feels to me like it's more important to be super specialized in one stat as opposed to just increasing everything by a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, it helps you a little bit, but it's not super ultra significant. I'm not sure. Maybe let me know in the comments if you have a different opinion, but I was super disappointed in that Descendants campaign by the Legendary Scepter. It really didn't help me much at all, really. But that being said, It's the final one. It's the Sphere of Negation. Prevents all spell casting in combat, only by heroes, but spells cast by creatures such as the Unicorn's Blind still work. So, if you're a Might hero, this is insane, because essentially, it's not just that you level the playing field or anything. No, you just flip it. Now, if you're a barbarian, for example, or a knight, and you have a ton of attack or a ton of defense or something like that, you have these great stats, and the army that you have would have great attack and defense, your problem is actually fighting spellcasters, because there's kind of no real, let's say, counter to that. If somebody blows you up with chain lightning, what you gonna do about that? But if you prevent all spell casting in the combat, now you have a huge advantage against magic heroes. So that's kind of nice. However, for magic heroes, if you get the Sphere of Negation on your guy, what are you going to do exactly with that? Because that kind of destroys your whole strategy. If you're a warlock, what are you going to have? Like, if you're lower level, what, 0 attack, 0 defense? That's kind of terrible. And if you're higher level, what, you're going to have 2, 3? Yeah, obviously you can combine this with, I don't know, the Holy Hammer, the Sword of Andran, if that's even possible to get, and stuff like that. So you might have a chance, but definitely not as much as fighting, the barbarian or the knight. They will have way more of those significant stats in the combat. So yeah, the Sphere's Negation, I would say it's somewhat situational in a sense. I mean, 50% of the factions would use it. The other ones, not so much, I would say. Like, yeah, barbarians, knights, for sure. Potentially, I'm not sure, maybe the necromancer could use it as well, but it depends. But anyway, the other guys kind of get destroyed by this one. So it could be super insane, super strong, or completely unusable. And not only unusable, but you need to kind of protect it, because you don't want to let the enemy, if he's a Might hero or Might faction, you don't want them to get it. So you need to protect this one, maybe just by... You can't even keep it on your strongest hero's slot, because it will activate. So you need to give it to a secondary hero, move him someplace, in some secluded place, and try to protect that. Or, I don't know, you could dismiss, but that the enemy could eventually rehire or hire your old hero, so that's not good. So getting rid of this is kind of problematic as well, so you might have to protect it, so that's a curveball a little bit. However, because it's so insane for the Might heroes, I would say it's super strong, even if for the magic guys, it's not usable, really. So, or it could be usable only if you have been unlucky, you got bad RNG, you only have, I don't know, summon both Dragon Slayer and Steel Skin, or stuff like that, the Frost Ring, whatever, not Frost Ring, Cold Ring, and Mass the Spell, or some nonsense, and the enemy has the best spells, Lightning Bolt, Blind, Cold Ray, stuff like that, yeah. Maybe if you're both magic heroes, you could use it just such that you could play around the chain lightning possibilities, or the meteor shower, or whatever the enemy uses, or stuff like that, Or if he has way more spell power than you could still use it. So even that, yeah, it's definitely not as situational as these other artifacts. So I would say it's pretty high up there. Dude, because it's so insane and it changes everything for these Might heroes, I would give it an S, honestly. It's kind of, yeah, you don't use it all the time. It's not completely a no-brainer, but it's so strong. It's like the Orb of Inhibition from Heroes 3, or rather, that is like this, obviously. So I kind of like it. Definitely S tier, but lower S just because not everybody's going to use it every single time. Well, that was it for today's tier list. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if you disagree with, or what you disagree with, actually, and I'll see you next time.